Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about Keyforge and the state of play in December 2018 on the East Coast of the United States of America. So I'm playing Keyforge, and I'm just kind of capturing this moment in time because I think it's really important. Like these are the alpha days of Keyforge, and we know what the value of alpha cards and what the importance of alpha play was for Magic the Gathering. And this is key. So this is Keyforge's initial time, and it's important. So I'm just trying to capture what the play experience is like and report to you what I'm seeing in my area for play. So normally I play in Friday Night Magic. I go with my junior high son, and we'll play together, and we make it an event. Like I get off of work, at normal time. I work kind of a 9 to 5, and then I'll come home, I'll pick up my son. He has a buddy that goes with us as well, and we'll play in Friday Night Magic. We'll drop his buddy off, and then me and my son will go to Applebee's. We'll just have a nice meal, and we'll talk over the decks we saw that night, and we just make it a nice evening, right? So we do that really, really frequently. And this last week, we're fortunate. We're the Garibays. We're bright, vibrant people, all of us, so we get a lot of invitations to different stuff. And so my son got an invitation to go do something other than Friday Night Magic. So I had a Friday Night Magic. I had a Friday night all to myself. So I called up one of my buddies who is playing Keyforge, and I said, hey, let's meet at one of the FLGS's. Let's get some Keyforge games in. So we got together and we played two, and I'll tell you about the evening. But so I went to the FLGS to meet my buddy. He was there. And when I get there, I noticed that this FLGS, I hadn't been there in a while, this FLGS used to run Friday Night Magic, and now they don't. I was shocked. So basically, this place can hold about 50 people, right? And there were about 15 people in the place, and there was no Friday Night Magic, which was really, really surprising to me. I hadn't seen this before. So it seems that Friday Night Magic has waned at this place, and it no longer occurs there. Now this FLGS, they really specialize. It's very odd. They're really specifically focused on Yu-Gi-Oh cards. It's one of their bigger sellers, and it's based on where they are regionally. There's a lot of players that come there and play Yu-Gi-Oh. And the night I was there was a couple people playing Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh action is usually on a Saturday. But when I came in, there were 4 games. There was two games ongoing of Keyforge. So when me and my buddy started up our game, we were the 3rd game, and there were 6 people in the place. You're getting close to half the people in the place are playing Keyforge, right? Very, very interesting. So actually, Friday Night was very slow at this FLGS, which is a little worrisome right now. That's not every FLGS where I'm at, but I was just surprised to see that any of the FLGS's friendly local game shops had abandoned Friday Night Magic. Now, my opinion on why Friday Night Magic has been abandoned or why Friday Night Magic might be under threat at FLGS's is modern. I think modern is a real problem. Okay, so. I think one of the reasons why modern is a problem is in the old days when you had Friday Night Magic, it was understood that Friday Night Magic was standard, and everybody at Friday Night Magic was playing standard. And if you had some weird other format, you could play that any night of the week. And there were multiple nights of the week where Magic was being played in different ideas. But in many shops, modern has infected standard, and I really feel that modern is a toxic. I think modern is a toxic format. And the reason why is it's so hard to play Magic the Gathering that to bring modern into the Friday Night Magic and make it equal, or even that it should have a platform next to standard, is crazy. And the reason why is playing standard is incredibly difficult. Playing modern ramps up that difficulty level from a perspective of complexity for the player and money, dollar bills, US dollar bills for the player, that it's ridiculous. So to say that standard Magic isn't expensive enough and isn't complex enough and we need modern, it's bad for the hobby. And I think in a lot of places I see now, They'll run Modern and they'll run Friday Night Magic, and it split the focus, and I think it's a bad thing overall. So me and my buddy, we start our Keyforge match, right? And I at the beginning, he's like, what do you want to play? And I said, I want to play that deck that beat me the last time and beat me once before. So I played one of his decks that had beat me twice before. We played with no chains, and he beat me again. And I had a great time playing. I really enjoyed it, right? But one of the things it taught me is, unlike Magic, so when I sit down and I play an opponent in Magic, just not F&M, not at a tournament, just playing, right? One, I play the person, they beat me, I beat them, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's the experience, and I know, and that's that, right? But one of the things that is really fascinating about Keyforge is, when I was done that match, I actually wrote down, okay, here's the name, here is my name, my opponent's name, the time of the match, my opponent's deck name, my name, right? And loser, right? So I'm capturing my name, my opponent's name, my deck's name, my opponent's deck name, the time of the match, and the win-loss, right? And I'm going to be capturing these going forward on any game. And the reason why is, the next time we get together, I want to know that this thing has lost 3 times in a row, and that way I can track the changes, right? Or I could say, you should have these many chains, right? So I also was really surprised too that I lost for the 3rd time in a row to this deck, but I had a blast, and it was really a challenge. I wanted to see if I could beat that deck, right, with my deck. Right now, next time I may switch over to one of my other decks that I own, or I may say to my opponent, you need to use chains, right? Or are you willing to use chains to play that deck, right? And so I love this idea with Keyforge where you really should be tracking, who are you, who's your opponent, what's your deck name, what's their deck name, and what is the date and what is the win-loss, right? And the reason why is, with these Keyforge decks, it can matter, right? There can be some context to it. Whereas with Magic, I would never bother to do that, and the reason why is there's a really good chance that a deck is just going to, that deck construction for my opponent in Magic the Gathering, it could blow away in the wind. There's a high probability that person's going to need that card for another deck. And the idea that deck will be around in the state it's in even a week is unlikely, right? Whereas with Keyforge, those decks are stable. You have a known environment and a known element. And this is absolutely key, right? If you're not in information technology, this will make a little less sense to you, but if you're in information technology, if you have a unique identifier, you could do anything with that data. If you don't have a unique identifier, you can't do anything with that data, right? And that's the issue, is each deck in Keyforge has a unique identifier, and that is absolutely critical. It tells a tale between the opponent and their deck, there's a tale between opponents, there's a tale between decks, there is a story, there is a narrative between decks. Every deck has its own narrative, every deck pairing has its own narrative, every player and opponent has their own narrative, every player, opponent, and their specific deck configurations has its own unique narrative, and that does not exist in Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering, the deck construction, the deck recipes are throwaway. They mean nothing because they can be torn apart at any moment, and that deck is just like, it's snowflakes blowing around in the wind. It can change so frequently that the decks don't matter. They aren't named, they're not eternal, they don't have a unique identifier, and that is something very, very unique to Keyforge. And it was absolutely fascinating to me. I had a blast playing. My buddy then gave one of his other decks to his friend who did not own a deck, who then played me in Magic the Gathering in Keyforge for the first time. And my buddy's friend, who he had just given a deck, and the guy he gave a deck to had read all of the rules by PDF the night before, defeated my deck as well. Curses, right? So my deck is losing a lot in Keyforge, but I am having so much fun. And I'm not willing to abandon my deck, because when I played my deck against the people in my family, it was crushing, right? But when I go to the FLGS, it's not crushing. But I'm really having a blast at Keyforge. It's a fantastic game. I absolutely love it. Of course, I highly recommend. I really think, you know, if you have any extra cash, you should definitely get yourself up to, really, I honestly think every player should be going to 10, 20 decks right now. Just because I think there's a distinct possibility that these decks, like more than any set ever to come in the future, has a possibility of having real value, because it's the first deck. It's the alpha. You're looking at the alpha of Keyforge right now. So it's really interesting. I own, you know, I have 10 decks myself, and I'm really just having a blast with Keyforge. I just want to let you know what my state of play is. I'd really love to hear what's going on in your corner of the world. Oh, I also want to say real quick, I am not seeing an organized play night, and I'm not seeing a lot of tournaments. I don't know if that's because I don't know where to look, or this is a very real problem. Magic Gathering has such an established schedule for tournaments and for F&M that it has made less room for Keyforge to actually set up its own tournaments and for its own organized play night. So that's kind of an issue, but let me know your thoughts. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful day.